What's going on, everybody? Fedor here from 3D Print SOS. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the direct drive battle. This time we have not only a brand new machine but also a whole brand new brand to the channel. Sovol enters the chat with the SV01 PRO. Now this machine has been a long time coming for the channel. A lot of people have been asking for the SV01 and other machines. They make quite a few and I hear nothing but great things actually because I think they're priced correctly. Speaking of price, this particular machine is right around $300, usually right around $310, but it is on a sale right now for $270. And the important part of me mentioning that is for the price range, let's look at the preview that we get of what we get for that price. If you guys look a little bit closer here, it looks a lot like the Ender 3 S1. And the Ender 3 I covered in an earlier episode. You can check that link popping up right over here. And that is actually the go-to machine that I recommend to people trying to get into the hobby if they can afford it. It's quite a bit more expensive than $270 or even $300 at the full price of this machine. So if it looks a lot like it, what else does it do a lot like it? That's kind of the question here. And one thing I learned about this machine and Sovol in general that kind of surprised me is they not only clone a lot of Ender parts or Creality parts, but they use Creality parts. I'm guessing that they're licensed directly because this particular machine uses a CR Touch for leveling, like the official CR Touch. It uses an actual Creality board with silent steppers. It uses a Creality power supply and a lot of other parts directly from the Ender machines. So not only does it undercut the Ender 3 S1, but it has a very similar hot end. It's obviously not the Sprite extruder, but it has its own really similar extruder. Even the construction of the machine looks the same. It has the same sensor here for the filament, including the filament holder. It has a touchscreen on the side, but its trick up its sleeve is not only just to undercut the Ender 3 S1 in price alone, it also has a larger bed diameter. It has a 280 millimeter by 250 millimeter bed size and 300 millimeters on the Z. So kind of an interesting size at 280 by 250. I can't say that I've had a machine that's kind of in between 300 like that and 235, which is kind of typical of all of these machines. So it's definitely an interesting size. Now that's definitely a plus because it looks like, generally speaking, it's about the same size, maybe just a little bit wider than an Ender 3 S1, but not by much. And with that, you do get a lot more area to print on. The downside could be, and this is just speculation, I don't have the machine here yet, but the speculation is that it could be a little bit harder to find parts for the bed. Like if you need a new spring sheet, for example, you'd have to get it from Sovol because it is an interesting custom size to the machine. So that's one of the things that we are going to find out. And how do we do this on the direct drive battle is we are going to unbox this machine. I'm going to show you everything that it comes with, everything that's in here. We're going to really quickly put it together and then we're going to start testing it to see what it has on the SD card. We're going to give those a print and then I'm going to bring it into Cura. I will either select a profile or make one depending on how the manufacturer provides it for us, and we'll print some cool things on the machine and give it some further testing, and then I'll give you my first impressions of the machine and how it compares to everything else. And at the end of the direct drive battle, I will take a look at all of the machines that we did in the season, compare them all directly, give them points, and you can see the previous finale right over here where we took a look at a whole bunch of other direct drive machines. So it'll be really interesting to take all of these and compare them to the previous season and see what manufacturers are doing, what they're not doing. I think it's really interesting to see what the trends are. I don't even know of a Bowden machine that has come out recently. Direct drive seems to be the way that it is nowadays. So let me get my blade and let's tear right into this thing. Let's go. All right, I got my blade. Let's get it unboxed. All right, so right off the bat, we have the manual. What I like to check in these to see right away is if they include a way to install the profile on the machine. All right, there we go. Instructions, looks like it is built into Cura, so that should be nice and easy. Perfect. Always nice to see a little spool like this. We got regular PLA, white. All right, box of goods. Let's see what we got. We have the power cord. We have a USB adapter that has an SD card in it. We have an 8 GB branded SD card. Let's keep that handy. All right, we have the famous blue side cutters. Thank you, Sovol. I don't understand why companies don't include this in every machine. We have a spare MK8 style nozzle with a poker in case it gets clogged. We have the Creality scraper. We have our basic wrenches, screwdriver, and Allen keys. We have some zip ties and the ends to some 2040s. And we have the screws that we will install this machine with, and there's only 4 of them, so that makes that easy. All right, here we have the filament runout sensor and the spool holder. All right, looks like the rest is just the printer, so I'm gonna set this down and get it out on the table for you. Oh, found the screen in there. Actually, the little bezel looks nice. Okay. All right, one thing to note that I found kind of interesting right off the bat is that the printer is connected. It's separate by 2 parts, but it's also connected. So there's no plug like on the Ender machines or a lot of other machines. So when you take this out of the box and you go to pull this top section out, don't just yank and pull it because, well, it's attached. Okay, and that is everything that's in the box. I kind of have this standing here so I can go over what I'm seeing. But let's take a look at the extruder. I did feel that there's a belt up here. Oh no, I did not. All right, so the Z-axis, there are dual Zs, but they're not belted together. So they're keeping that nice and simple. This right here is the plug. Oh, you can't even see it. There's a plug on top to plug in your sensor. Let's take a look at the extruder. So, no wobble out of the box. That's nice. Any flat spots? No flat spots in the wheels. We have a belt tensioner on the X. Nice and grippy. We have our CR Touch. We have a nice blower fan, which I definitely like to see. The extruder itself is metal because it has a fan blowing right on it. It kind of is a heat sink itself. Can we see the hot end from here? Judging by the heat break that I see in there, it looks like it is PTFE lined, so we don't have an all metal hot end, but those are easily upgradable. Looks like the arm tension on the extruder is easy to set. It does look like a geared extruder, but not kind of like a Titan that I've seen. It's almost like reverse in that way. So this is definitely their own extruder. It uses a pancake style motor, so it doesn't weigh that much. Overall, a really compact and nice design. Not bad, I dig it. All right, so far everything seems pretty simple. Let me go ahead and kind of set this down any way that I can so I can go over the rest. All right, let's take a look at what we're seeing here on the bed. Right away, I see that the bed that's on here is not a PI sheet. This is actually one of those, I'm slipping my mind at the moment, but one of these soft magnetic beds. They are not bad. They do wear out. So definitely, if you're going to be purchasing one of these, I highly suggest you either buy more of these, they're really inexpensive, or just go ahead and grab a PAI spring sheet. The texture ones are so awesome to print on, but these are definitely good to start. I've had one of these on my first Ender for years before I replaced it. But yeah, as you can see, it's kind of a rectangle instead of a square. So basically, you are getting about that much more extra than the Ender, for example. All right, let's take a look at the bed. Yeah, the bed definitely has a wiggle, so we will have to adjust that. I do notice that the bed is mounted on yellow springs, so that's always nice. Yellow springs tend to have more tension on them, and they tend to keep the bed more level longer. All right, not that much else to note. I'm not going to open this machine because, like I said, I found online really readily accessible information about what's on the inside here. It literally uses Creality hardware on the inside. The motherboard, the power supply, is the same as the Ender line. So let's go ahead and put this together. One thing I do see that's a little bit different than other machines is typically the entire top assembly slides into the frame, but in this case, it sits on the sides of the frame. All right, there we go. So the installation is actually going to be even easier than I imagined, because you don't have to go under the machine to install this section. This just slips right on top. It's all keyed, so it kind of has a hard stop. And all we're going to need to do is just put these 4 screws, 2 on each side, and then done. And the plugs to everything are right here. it looks like we have one plug right over here that's going to go to the top. Then we have one plug here for the Z, another plug right here for the Z, and we're done. This plug over here is for the screen. So far so good, great assembly. I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing so far on this printer, so I definitely have some high hopes for it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and assemble it, and I'll see you over here when we take a look at what's in the menus. Alright, so let's check out the menus. I want to mention a couple things right off the bat. One, this thing is removable. There is some kind of glue on the wire, so you can move it around a little bit more than if it wasn't there. I don't necessarily suggest it. I don't know why it's meant to be removable like this. I guess if you just needed to quickly glance at it from a different angle, but let's just keep it on like this on its mount for now. So first things first, I love the iconography on here. It looks like this is far more thought out than majority of the machines that come with Marlin installed, which is really nice. So let's just start right off the bat from the top. There's a little toggle that changes the entire theme for the machine. I've seen that before, but let's just keep it on the dark side for now, just easier to see for everyone involved, I think. This one is definitely really bright. But yeah, so it starts off like this. It looks like we get to see the temperatures on the hot end and the bed. This is an entire leveling screen, which as soon as you click, it looks like it just starts, it at least homes it. And then from there, you can do your manual leveling, where it goes around all the sides and you use the knobs, and then auto bed leveling, which uses the CR Touch to do, which I'll do before the front print, the first print, and I'll be sure to mention how that went in the conclusion here. But then we have this big file here called Select File, and it just pulls up the SD card, and on here we have a cube and a benchy, and I'm not sure why the pagination stops at 4. I guess that's kind of like a hard limit, but that should be plenty of files on here. So we'll definitely check out both of these, and we'll print these before we do anything else. There's a big easy print button on the bottom. So yeah, so far super easy to use. Then we have another menu over here. I do like the way that this bottom layout is. Like I said, it looks like they actually have a design team on board that thought about this instead of just kind of how the engineers have Marlin set up. So this is nice. Also, I wanted to mention, I forgot in the very beginning, I did notice that the screen dims and then almost fully turns off, if not all the way turns off when not in use. So that's also a nice little feature. But here we have the move section, which you can choose how far you want things to move. This is how you move the Z. You just kind of touch and it goes, as you might have heard. That would home. This moves the X. This moves the Y. It's very responsive. Then we have the stop motors button. You kind of see it crosses out. So that moves, and then everything's locked, and then as soon as you press this, the motors end. So nice simple menu. Quickly access this to move things around where you need it, especially because the Z isn't belted at the top. So once you align them left and right, use this for moving it up instead of manually moving it. It'll just stay level longer. All right, then we go over here to the settings. And here we have on the top the refuel button. I'm assuming this is just a different way to say filament change. That's why there's a spool there. So we don't need to click that at the moment. Then we have this, the advanced settings. And I love that it gives you this warning, basically saying it's not suggested to do any of this unless you know what you're doing. And I like that it also reminds you to save to EEPROM afterwards, which is very nice. So if you hit yes, we see all the advanced things that you want once you understand how to use these machines, how to use this particular machine. And I really love seeing this. I love seeing the warning before you get into this. Sovol, very good job. I commend you guys. I think a lot more companies need to do this. I do like it when beginner-oriented printers are stripped down of this. However, having it behind a warning screen like that, but still giving you access to all this because it's available already in Marlin, yeah, this is great. So first we have temperature PIDs, both for nozzle and hot end. We have the velocity controls, which is great. We have acceleration controls, which you can tune. We have the jerk controls, which you can tune. We have the E-steps, which you can tune. It looks like everything is set to 80, and the Z and E are 400 and 415 on the extruder, which is an interesting number. I think this is kind of unique to their own gearing in the extruder, which is nice. And then we have the advanced settings, the advanced K in this case. I'm not particularly sure exactly what this is. I'm sure someone can tune in and tell me a little bit more about this and how to use this properly, especially because I don't think there's any sensors installed on the hot end itself. So this would be interesting to know how to do. But the fact that it's here and I have access to it and I can learn what this is and do it, that I really enjoy. All right, let's go back. This is how you initialize the EEPROM. And we have our info here. It just tells us the machine, its size, the firmware, the Marlin, and of course the website to get assistance. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you, this is the menu that pops up after you hit the level button and the printer go ahead and does its own homing. It shows you this where you can control the Z offset, which is what it does as soon as it does the leveling. It goes into the Z offset setting. This is where you can move it up and down. I like that it's set to 0 standard from the box. Here you can do the two different types of leveling. You need to do them both, left and right, and here it gives you all the measurements. Obviously I haven't done leveling yet, so it's all on 0, but you can see your mesh that it creates right here, and this will allow you to tune it a little bit more. So let's say you went ahead and did this, but let's just say for example on the right side the numbers are way off. Then you can use the knobs on the bottom of the machine to tweak them in whichever direction, do your auto leveling again, and then have a visual representation of what your bed looks like. I think this is a great way to do this. Nice looking menu, very easy to understand. Another big plus for the Sovol. So yeah, this is just great. The screen is nice. It is a matte screen. It's not the most bright or vivid, but I definitely like the theme. I like the graphics. I think they did a great job. I like seeing all of these options, the big buttons. This is definitely easy to use. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to level the machine, and I'm going to go ahead and run those two prints off with some PLA and see what this thing is all about. All right, I'll see you guys in a minute. Alright, so that's the SV01 PRO by Sovol. There's nothing necessarily on this machine that's gonna make me go say wow. It doesn't have that like big zinger feature, but then again, for its price range, the product that you get here is actually pretty good, and that's the TLDR to the whole thing. It is one of the only machines that I've done in my recent memory where I didn't fill this whole sheet with pros and cons, not even close. And actually, there's two things listed for both. Let's just go right into these, and then we'll jump into the print and print quality. As you can see, I'm printing right now in this awesome flat black PETG by California Filament. Really awesome stuff, and I'll go over it. As you guys saw me print the last piece here. It's kind of like a wrench holder for my toolbox outside in the garage. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's go over the pros and cons of the machine now that I've given you a bit of a little TLDR of what I think initially. So let's start with the cons like we typically do. And here I have this is funny because this isn't actually a problem, but I personally don't like the build surface. I don't like these. I don't remember what they're called even, but they're not PEI sheets. It's just like a flexible surface. My original Ender 3 that I first got many years ago had this surface. They don't last very long. They're kind of finicky with leveling. I would have rather this machine have glass, believe it or not, but ideally a PEI sheet would be great. And that leads me to the next con is the bed size is a funky size. And that's a downside because of this part, because I can't just go on Amazon or just anywhere, and type in PEI spring sheet and buy one, because this bed size is unique to this machine. So you have to get it from Sovol or someone that specifically made it for this SV01, and I believe SV02 has a similar bed size. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're going to be purchasing this machine, me personally, I would recommend a PEI sheet right off the bat. There's already a magnet here. You could use this as a backup or just for certain materials, but I would buy this machine and also buy a PEI spring sheet. I think that then it would literally eliminate any negative that this machine could possibly have. So that's really refreshing. It's built well, it's priced right. It's not the most stout machine, but it's definitely no loose goose. It has upgraded parts like better springs, things along those lines. The cables are okay. They're not the most tidy cables. They're not the worst cables. You see there's kind of like a pattern here. It uses Creality parts. Everyone knows Creality. That's a trustworthy name. Even some people might not agree with that, but it is in comparison to many other companies. So yeah, it's really actually decent. And there I went going from cons into pros somehow. So let me just jump right into pros since we don't really have that many cons. The leveling guide is actually really great, and that brings me into the menu graphics and the features of all things related to the screen, and menus are great. Now the screen itself isn't the best screen, and I wouldn't expect much from something of this size, of this nature, for this price range of this screen, but the fact that it dims by itself is really nice. It just saves a little bit of energy. It doesn't have to be super bright. But all of the graphics on here, the UI that they added to this Marlin build is really good. I commend Sovol for doing it. I think that having their own graphics team that is clearly been done by professionals. I think all the buttons are the right size. Nothing's confusing. I had questions about nothing. There is a couple language things here and there, but that's just because it's a Chinese company and they don't always perfectly translate into English, but that's neither here or there. Like I mentioned, the graphical interface I think is absolutely great. You guys saw me dig around the menus. You saw the feature set with the menus. You can calibrate the machine if you wanted to. You can stay with a simple and do nothing if you wanted to. It seems to just work, so massive benefit there. Let me go back to the original statement about the leveling guide. Leveling is basically two parts. Well, you could say three parts. That's because it has a sensor on it. But okay, let me just go over it. So essentially when you hit leveling, it will go ahead and just go home. It'll level initially right in the middle of the bed, and then it will go into its Z offset state, and that's kind of where the menu is. The first thing you can do is set the Z offset at the very top and hit save. So you can use a piece of paper and just do that. But then there is the first stage of leveling, kind of like on the left side. You click it and it goes through the 5 points. You can press them in whichever order you want. I just went around a couple times with a piece of paper, and that mechanically levels the bed. Okay, and then you can do auto bed, and it makes a mesh. And my favorite part is that it shows you right there on the screen what your mesh is. So if basically that mesh was way off in some corner, you can just go back to the first part and kind of like reestablish the leveling, and then go back to the auto bed leveling again. Just make sure you hit save, and you are good to go there. Leveling is automated on the machine. You don't have to do anything, and that's very nice. That would definitely be easy for people getting into, and the interface makes it better. And the only other thing on here is the Z offset is super easy to adjust while printing and then to save it. And that's true. There's a little button in the top right hand corner while you're printing. It opens another menu where you can change the the fan speed, the temperatures, everything along those lines. And the best part is you can adjust the Z offset while you have your initial print going, and then there's a save button. A lot of machines that I get into don't have that save button, so you can alter the Z offset because maybe it wasn't perfect, and then the next print you click it and it's all over the place again, and you have to do it again. Here you hit save, it saves, and I just printed one of these and I just hit print again and it's going again. It's hands off at this point. So huge benefit. One of the things that I'd like to see, and I know they can't because this is a Creality board, but I would have loved to see a USB plug on here. There is a micro USB for plugging in things like a Raspberry Pi or any other interface, like you can actually plug this into a computer and use the computer to control it for various things. But I would have liked to see a USB here, so we don't have to fiddle with the tiny little SD card. We could have just used an adapter or even just a flash drive. That would be nice. So that's definitely a step forward there in terms of future proofing. I think it's good. I think it's solid. I like the compact nature of the extruder. It did well. This isn't the noisiest machine, but it's also not the quietest. The big fan that they used is a huge plus. The cooling is really great, and I'll go over that when we go over the prints. So yeah, you kind of expect some noise out of a fan that's this size that's going to be blowing hard onto your prints. All right, that's that. Let's go into the prints. I'm going to talk about this cube first because it's not really anything special, but if I take my caliper here and we go ahead and measure the top and bottom, measuring the Z is 20.3. Let's do the Y, 19.93. Let's do the X, 19.96. So as you can see, this is a pretty accurate cube for just something right out of the box. The print quality looks great. I did notice that the bottom and tops aren't perfect, but that's definitely a slicing problem and not so much a printer problem. I did notice the same thing on the Benchy. The very bottom has some gaps in it, but no other problems anywhere else. So that, I'm just going to say, is a slicing issue. If you look at this Benchy, there's a lot to say here about this Benchy. First, let's look at the spot right here where this tests the cooling of the machine. Zero problems. And this wasn't even facing the cooling. Usually you want to put this part of the Benchy towards your cooling fan so that it has the best chance. This wasn't even, this was on the side of where the cooling is, and there's zero issues. The other thing I wanted to mention here is check out the bridging. So this little part right here at the top of the window is how bridging is, I guess, showcased in a Benchy. And this usually droops a little bit, and this looks absolutely perfect. Once again, look how well the cooling did on the bridging here. All the squares are square, the circles are circles. This is a really impressive, really impressive Benchy, actually. So that's just noteworthy. The Benchy that came on the SD card is nice to use if you guys like to test and calibrate your machines. That's there. Okay, the other thing, let's go into the other prints. So first, just a print with supports. Yes, the supports did leave a few marks here and there, but otherwise, as you guys saw, I know white is hard to see with all the lights here. They're kind of meant for skin tone, and white kind of get washed out on this. But let me tell you, the print quality here is nothing to complain about at all. I'm actually pretty proud of this. This is definitely going to go on my little Star Wars display over there. So PLA performance, absolutely no problem. So then we tested TPU, this black stand that also literally looks flawless. I mean, even the tiny text on over here, I mean, look at it. So this is, as you can see, flexible TPU, and it printed perfect, 0 strings, fits absolutely perfectly as a stand for this piece, and this is definitely going to be a nice little piece for the showcase over there. So PLA, TPU, no problem. Then we tested PETG. Like I said, this is California Filament Matte Black PETG, and this also came out great. As you guys saw, there is just, I mean, the walls are super smooth. There's no weird strings anywhere, just right off the bat. Really good prints. And what I'll do is the TPU, PLA, and PETG profiles, I'll add them to all the typical places like our Discord section with all of the profiles, so you guys can jump in and grab them if you're interested in this machine and want to print these materials. I'll just have them because I tinkered with them a little bit to get them where they are, and I'm very proud of how this thing prints. It's dialed in. I don't have to do anything. I can just drop in a file and go. Alright guys, I think I've said enough. I'm really happy with it. I'm going to continue testing to see if maybe I can find some weakness outside of its funky bed size. I feel like that's really the only thing that's a downside here. And this, I gotta say, this machine is kind of like a gateway drug. I really now want to check out other Sovol machines. Not that this is bad, I just want to see what if this machine is #1 and there's many more, I think up to 8 now. I kind of want to see the rest of their lineup. What do you guys think of this machine? Let me know down below. Is there something specific you want me to test or see? I obviously didn't do other materials because there is a PTFE lined hot end in here, so I'm not going to push the temperatures past PETG. But yeah, let me know if you guys want if you guys have questions about something or want to know something specific about the machine while I have it, while I'm testing it, and maybe we'll check out some other Sovol machines. If there's one specific that you would like, let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, check out the links that I provide for you guys down in the description. They are affiliate links and they help the channel greatly. Like for example, if you're shopping for filament or even just some nozzles, check out all those links down there. I know there's a ton down there, but they're there to help you shop. If you use them, they're completely free. They're just my my opinions on decent products. Meanwhile, I get a tiny kickback for this channel so that I can continue to test things, print fun stuff, and try to help everyone else out when it comes to 3D printing and 3D printers. So there you go, guys. Check us out on Patreon, and definitely check out the Discord channel where everyone is sharing their prints, troubleshooting machines, so on and so forth. All right, that's all for me. And as always, I'll see you guys in the comments. Later.